So I've decided recently I want to record a couple of leagues with an old favourite deck of mine, LED Dredge. I think it's possibly the most degenerate format deck in the Legacy format, in that it's both incredibly unfair and considerably harder to interact with than just about anything else you can name, being resilient to counter magic, spot removal, and having a very good grind strategy as well. It also forces people into making highly unintuitive plays like bolting their own creatures to remove bridges, all of which I think just makes it a particularly unusual strategy for anybody who's not particularly familiar with it. I've decided I want to play it again because it was my introduction to Legacy. I find it incredibly fun still. And so I just thought I'd record a couple of leagues. Having said that, we're going to talk about the list. It's pretty unextraordinary. It's more or less what I play in paper. We have 4 Colosseums, which are a draw 3, if we can get Threshold, 8 gold lands, the standard 4 LEDs to work with either Breakthrough, Faithless Looting, or Careful Study. The trick being you want to cast one of your 3 enablers, one of your 3 draw spells, hold priority, crack Lion's Eye Diamond, pitch your hand, and hopefully pitch a Dredger while you're at it. And you're going to crack for red so that you can flashback Faithless Looting when and if you find it. We're playing 4 Putrid Imps, which I know not every Dredge player will agree with, but I've been really liking it. 4 Therapies is more or less compulsory. They help you flashback creatures with your... they help you sacrifice your creatures, which come into play off your dredges, and generate tokens via Bridge from Below, while also getting you incremental value in terms of the damage it does to your opponent's hand. We have 3 Thugs. Ideally, in a perfect world, we want 4 copies of Golgari Thug. But unfortunately, somewhere along the way, we have to make a sacrifice. It's theoretically possible I could cut a Dread Return, but I've always quite liked the Dread Return just as an additional sack outlet as much as anything else. I've never been particularly fussed about it resolving. We have 4 Narcomoebas. These are one of the underpinnings of the deck, entering play when you mill them. Otherwise, they're just a 1/1 flyer for 2 mana. Prized Amalgam is a newish addition for me, at least. I quite liking just having a higher density of recursive creatures. We have 3 Icarids. I've gone down from 4, as I just tend to find they can get a bit hungry on your graveyard, and you're better off having... You only really need the 3. You're better off not eating your entire graveyard quite so quickly in a lot of the time. We have 4 Bridges, and then another 8 Dredges in Stinkweed Imp and Golgari Grave Troll, with the advantages of these ones being Stinkweed Imp can be cast and has Death Touch. Grave Troll is a good Dread Return target main deck. Thug also has some value if you can actually get it into play. You can flashback a Therapy and put a Narcomoeba back on top of your library to be able to mill it again next turn. So you've got some interesting little tricks like that you can pull. Moving to the sideboard, we have 2 Nature's Claim, 1 Wear Tear, just to deal with resolved hate pieces, usually in the form of artifacts or enchantments. We have an Ashad Rider as a general removal spell, some Lotus Petals for acceleration, Firestorm to deal with Containment Priest, as well as providing an uncounterable discard outlet against decks like Delver. We have a Dread Return for when we need to go fast, a second Dread Return for when we need to go faster, and our game plan is to resolve one of these 2. A 4th Icarid for when we need to be quite grindy, and Iona and Elish Norn. Iona is I tend to often find relatively marginal, but sometimes all you want to do is lock your opponent out of the game as quickly as possible. In which case her plus something like Elishnorn to ensure that your opponent can't have any creatures on the board is pretty strong. So that's often against something like Infect, opposing Dredge matches, things like that. So having said that, let's get on to the first match.